I can't believe I just said that. I'm such an idiot. What are people going to think? Wait a second. He just did that. Can you believe he just did that? Or if we just look at our child, right? What we do, what we say, what we feel has an effect on us, and it has an effect on our children.
Children are great by their very nature, and we have the privilege and responsibility of raising them. It can be challenging at times. Let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Armstrong. I'm a general and a special education teacher. I homeschooled my own children for 5 years, and I talk about those things that I've learned, I've studied, I've applied, and found what works for me and for my children and my students. And I want to share them with you. Now, I just said some lovely comments, and here's the thing. Whether we say things that can be harmful to ourselves personally inside, whether we say them out loud to somebody else directly, whether we say them to somebody else so we can complain together about someone, it affects us physically. What we do, what we say, what we think has an impact on our health. So think about the people you know, or it maybe is you, that has had such an impact on their health. And I am someone who had psoriasis covering 85% of my body at one point. My skin was so inflamed that it was uh, my temperature, what my core temperature was higher just from the inflammation on my skin. And a lot of what happens is mental, right? It's in our head, not that we create that situation because we want it in our head, but because we're unaware of the effects of our thoughts, of our thinking. And so when we have those, it creates friction. It can actually cause inflammation in our brain when we're like fighting against ourselves, or we're running those circular thoughts in our head, whether they're about ourselves or somebody else or a situation. That creates inflammation in our brain because every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So if we are having these fighting thoughts, whether they're with ourselves or with somebody else, it comes back at us with equal force. And for everybody, that's a little different. For me, I had an immune system difficulty, and that showed up in the form of psoriasis and the arthritis that sometimes accompanies that. If we look at our children, we see a lot that goes on. Some of those mental conditions like anxiety, depression. I know so many children who have trouble with digestion, multiple struggles with digestion, whether um, that can be many, many different ways, whether it's a difficulty fully processing the food in our bellies, whether it shows up in food sensitivities, eczema, in many other ways. Now, there are food sensitivities out there, and each of these things can be linked to causes, right? But one of the things that makes a huge difference is that mental thinking. So that's up to us to really look at our thoughts, to really consider them towards ourselves, towards other people, towards situations, towards our children, right? And be honest with ourselves. Because sometimes we think a thought and then we say, oh no, we don't think that. But really, we do. But we're trying to cover it up or put a band aid on it or throw a blanket over it so nobody else can see it. But when we're honest with our thoughts, that's when we really begin to be able to see the truth of what's going on, of what beliefs that we have that are really affecting us in a less helpful way. For me, I had a lot of negative self talk, and it went into negative talk in my head about other people and about the situation I was in. And when I was able to, uh, do nutrition as well, yes, but it didn't fully clear up. I couldn't get that complete relief until I was able to um, learn how to not just manage my thoughts, like, okay, negative thought, I'm going to just add a positive one in there. Because negative and positive um, are judgments. And so we're still having that conflict when there's those kind of judgments involved. But when we can um, allow our thoughts to be open, to be accepting of things that, we may not be as good at as other people, right? We might have skills in a different direction, but we want the other person's skills because that's, always greener on the other side. Just ask the billy goats. And it creates that inflammation. So it's not a switching a negative thought for a positive thought. It's allowing all of our thoughts and letting go of the judgments of them. And then allowing ourselves to decide which ones we want to keep. Because all of our thoughts are okay, all of our emotions are great. But we get to look at them and decide which ones we want to keep. Now, that was the problem for me. I had so many people, well, just change your thoughts. Just let it go. Just do this. Just do that. But I couldn't figure out how. How does that really work? How can you just tell me, just let it go? I have all this emotion. I have all of these thoughts around it. And I didn't know how to let it go. But that is what I teach now. I have a model that I learned. Its official name is nice and big, the Neuro Auto Associative Programming model that allows us to look at what's going on in our brains and in our thoughts and in our minds. And it's a step-by-step way to let the judgment go. It's a step-by-step way that allows us to choose, to choose what emotions we want to keep, to be able to experience those emotions, even ones labeled negative, named or labeled, it's enabled, negative. They're not negative. We may not choose to hang out there as often as some other ones, but having them serves a very important, purposeful, meaningful part in our lives. And to get rid of those altogether would diminish who we are and diminish what we could learn. So it's so important that you can find a way that works for you. Again, I have a model that I can share, or you can look. There's lots of good information out there. What I teach does go directly to that foundational level. It takes you to the root of the problem rather than the symptom of the problem. And negative thoughts are a symptom. And so replacing a negative with a positive, in this case, doesn't fully cut it. It can give you relief, it can give you an opportunity for your brain to readjust and to choose something different. But for those of us out there, right, who don't find that easy, or just switching to the positive, right, and all you're just telling yourself, oh, I'm just lying to myself. I'm just, just it's not truthful, and we don't believe it, so it doesn't always work. uh, and for those, there's a percentage of people that does work for, not because of that itself, but because of how it allows their brain to reset or to reroute. Where for some of us, that little bit isn't enough to reroute our thoughts. So, if you are interested, you are welcome to reach out to me. I am on Messenger. You can comment, and I'd love to talk to you about what it is that I offer. Uh, but as we move forward, right, with this episode, what does that mean for you? If you're able to figure that out, how much uh, more present and available might you be for your children? How much more of an example as our children watch us when we don't even know it and they feel that energy, how that programs them? Which program would we rather have for our children? The judgment one, positive, negative, or the accepting one, that unconditional one? I mean, I know which one I would want for my children, and which one I want for me and for everyone, if I'm being honest. So remember, children are great by their very natures, and we have that privilege and that responsibility to raise them. I will see you in another episode.
Hi friends, Cynthia Armstrong here. Thanks for joining us today. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you can see when new videos come out, and like this one. It is such a responsibility and a challenge to raise great kids, and we are here to help you along that journey to make it as enjoyable and fun and fulfilling as possible. Please check out our website, www.raisinggreatkids.net, and I will leave that in the description below.